This is the Tuesday evening, 6 p.m., and it is the spiritual discussion program on Blessed Radio. I'm Saad. I'm in southeast London in Bromley, and with me is Gregory. Gregory, oh, we've got a bit of background sound.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Gregory. How are you?
All right here.
Good.
In Brussels, sunny.
Sunny in Brussels. Okay, just now.
Hot.
And hot. Okay, good. I will say here in London, it has been sunny and hot, but just about 10-15 minutes ago, we've had showers starting, like thunder and lightning, and it's just started about 10-15 minutes ago. So I think it's just stopped only a second ago, but it's been a little bit of thunder there. So welcome, listeners. You're listening to the spiritual discussion program on Blessed Radio. The aim of our show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And we have a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is, what is prayer without work? What is prayer without work? You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. I also want to wish our Muslim listeners who are celebrating Eid ul-Adha today, or some people are doing tomorrow. That's a festival, Muslim festival, which is about the Prophet Abraham, or Ibrahim as it says in Arabic, who was willing to sacrifice his son to show his faith in God. That was the story, and to mark that, they sacrifice sheep or such animal on this day all throughout the world. And also some Muslims have been performing Hajj, which is a pilgrimage in Mecca. So that's the end of that as well. So that's a commemoration of that as well. So that's happening today. In some places they're celebrating today, some places they're celebrating tomorrow. So I'd like to wish all those people celebrating Eid Mubarak. I want to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, by Abdushin, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with the matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abdul Sheen. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, I just want to remind you the topic we are discussing tonight is what is prayer without work? What is prayer without work? And you can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as usual, I look in the dictionary for the meaning of the words in the title of our, or the topic that we are discussing, and the 2 key words we have in our topic for tonight is prayer and work. So, and actually, listeners, I want to just point out that when we put the topic tonight, what is prayer without work, the word prayer, we put it in quotes, specially. And so we would, because people do have different ideas what is prayer. So we want to explore that. So Gregory, as I said, I looked in the dictionary, as usual, for the title that we have in our topics, the words that we've used in the title. And the first word, the main word there, is prayer. And in the dictionary, I got 3 definitions there for prayer. And the first one, it says, a solemn request for help or expression of thanks addressed to God or another deity. So, Gregory, is that, as I said, there are 3 definitions. I just want to go one by one. I don't want to sort of try to cover too much in one go. So I'll just repeat that, Gregory. So this first definition of prayer is a solemn request for help or expression of thanks addressed to God or another deity. So, Gregory, that definition of prayer, is that good for our discussion?
Well, the definition that has arisen from the dictionary is only an accumulation of different expressions describing what, in quotes, prayer is supposed to mean. However, that doesn't really totally express, or that doesn't give the impression of what prayer is. What has been discussed is only the externals, the rituals which have been seen externally.
Right. Okay. So that word ritual you have said, I think, is very pertinent. So this is, you said, it's the externals that have been covered in this definition, and that's basically a ritual. So, I mean, that's very interesting, and so I know you would like to definitely go further to explore that. Gregory, I'm going to still continue with the other two definitions, so you can respond to that. So, if I do the second definition that I found in the dictionary, the same one, it says, this is the meaning of prayer now: a religious service, especially a regular one, at which people gather in order to pray together. So, would you like to respond to that, Gregory?
Well, you are trying to define prayer. At the same time, you are using prayer to define prayer. That doesn't sound very explanatory, does it? A gathering could mean very many things. A gathering where people pray does not define prayer. What is still being expressed are, in quotes, the externals, the forms, the rituals. Whereas in this particular case, what we are trying to grasp is the impression, the import, which imports is independent of the rituals which you find about.
Thank you for that. And one last definition I'd like to put forward, again from the dictionary for the meaning of prayer. It's an earnest hope or wish. An earnest hope or wish.
That, again, is like a request. Like you said, a wish. Again, that gives some partial definition, whereas many a person is looking for that which is holistic, so that they can grasp the real meaning, the kernel of that noun, which is referred to as prayer, or the verb in which it is a process, what it conveys, the impression that strikes from within. That is what one should be considering as prayer. Whereas what has been discussed so far are just basically rituals, how one will conduct oneself when one wants to get involved with prayer.
Gregory, can you hear me, Gregory? Yeah, the listener has just phoned in. A listener has just phoned in, and they're listening to what we have said so far. They just commented that something from the Bible, actually. They say prayer without faith, or I think I might not be quoting it exactly correctly, but yeah, prayer without faith is dead. I think that's what he said. So, and what he meant, he went further to say that basically, he gave an example. Basically, there should be work involved, because we have the title of the topic tonight is "What is prayer without work?" So So without work, it's not really a prayer. And he gave an example. Uh, hope people don't take it in a wrong way. Basically, if you don't, he said, if you need to go to toilet and you don't go to the toilet, it's like you're not, uh, it's basically, that's not being alive, is it? So basically, you have to. There's certain things you must do, and so it's like you can't have one without the other. So if you're going to, I know we haven't stopped talking about prayer yet, but the prayer and work go together. That's the point he was making. So, Gregory, I don't know if you want to comment on what I've just said, the listeners just said there.
I think there is enough room during the consideration of all prayers to come to a better understanding and include what has just been said, so that we can proceed in a logical manner to look at the whole thing rather than, breaking off.
Yes, I actually thank you for that, Gregory, because I do have in a little bit later to talk a reading from the Bible, which will cover this, what we've just said now. So thank you for that. So thank you, listener, for bringing that up as well. Now, Gregory, what you've been saying is that what the definition I've been giving about prayer is talking about externals and rituals. And and that's not what, let's say, true, if I can use the word true prayer. True prayer is more than that. So let's, so let me ask you, Gregory, what is really the true prayer then? What is a real prayer then, Gregory?
Well, that's a very great question. And many times one should consider it in simplicity. There are two aspects. The noun with the capital P, prayer, and the verb, which gives a process. That which gives a process is an activity which is carried out. That activity itself is some form of work. So maybe that is where, to some extent, work comes in. Like has been discussed, what is seen externally, visibly, is someone involved in some activity in order to, in quotes, open oneself to streams, to be able to make contact, asking questions, and at the same time expecting those questions to be answered. Yet, these things, or the answers to the questions of the petitioner, that petitioner is unsure, but in quotes has faith. These are the things that many see, and belief, which is referred to as faith, then comes in. Whereas prayer itself, as it should stand, basically should encompass that which is seen physically. It should not only go beyond that which we see on the earthly, for deep within the human personality it seeks to make contacts, sensing that it is not alone, seeking to make contact. That is like an arrow, like a pointer to reach beyond that which is intellectual, which goes beyond the five senses, and at the same time drawing strength. Which strength, which power streams through nature, or if you like, streams through creation. How it goes about it is what one sees physically and calls that process prayer. Whereas prayer itself is the kind of opening of oneself to the streams in nature, or the power streams in nature, such that it's able to use those power streams and apply them here in the physical world. And that is why many then in that process strive to make sure they have that contact. And for many, it is done in silence, not in so much noise. For whenever there is so much distraction within such an activity, then the personality is unable to open itself to those streams, which streams have always been there. So prayer is an activity in which the human personality strives to make contact with the streams of power in nature.
Thank you for that explanation, Gregory. You mentioned it's a process. Prayer is a process, an activity. And I would say maybe people didn't realize that when they just, I don't want to say they blurt out a prayer, they just say words and make a prayer. But maybe they're not very aware or conscious of what is the process, what is actually happening. And so, yes, they don't see it for what actually it is. And here tonight, listeners, we want to explore that. What is this activity, prayer? What is actually this prayer? And because obviously the more you know or the more you understand something, the better you can use it or apply it and apply it correctly as well. So hopefully that will be our endeavor to work in that direction. Now, Gregory, there's so many questions actually for tonight, and I'm just thinking. You just mentioned activity, Gregory, and the title is tonight, What is Prayer Without Work? And in a way, the definition of work, I want to look at it as well. Or let's say, just share it with everybody, and then we can just, let's say, just get it in context. So, Gregory, I looked up also the word work in the dictionary, and the definition I found, there are two definitions. It says, first one, activity involving mental or physical effort done in order to achieve a purpose or result. So I'll repeat that. The definition of work, activity involving mental or physical effort done in order to achieve a purpose or result. So Gregory, what this definition, is it in the context of a spiritual discussion, I don't know if it is a good definition.
It is a good definition, but the way it's understood might be very confusing. For when in the process of praying, in the process of making contact with the power streams, the effect of these power streams that had been engaged with, the effect manifests in work. The effect manifests in activities which is referred to as work, in physical activity. Not only in physical activity, in non-physical activity. So on the one hand, the manifestations here in the physical, in which one is able to perceive with one's senses, those manifestations are seen and perceived by the five senses. However, there are others which are not perceived as such or have not yet manifested. After all, tomorrow hasn't manifested yet, but in time, tomorrow will manifest, and there will be activities along the line, even tomorrow and the day after. Yet, the threads which fashion the path such that these manifestations can become visible, prehensible, those threads are not yet seen, or sometimes are never seen. However, one thing is for sure: these manifestations will come in due course. So there are two parts: the physical manifestations of work and the non-physical manifestations, which take place first before we have physical manifestations. Sometimes these processes are first mental in planning, and subsequently, most of the time, we now see how these things plans out.
Thank you for this answer and explanation, Gregory. Again, we're opening up the subject, looking at the physical and the non-physical, and in this case, the non-physical, we're referring to mental here. And so that was quite, could say, enlightening to be aware that there are processes happening in parallel or even prior and after, which might be invisible basically, and which we will not be again being aware of. So if you're not aware, then of course you don't know that is happening. So thank you for bringing that up, Gregory. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdrusheen. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. That's www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is, what is prayer without work? What is prayer without work? You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us is our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00 44 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, we're broadcasting on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. Bless Radio 1, space live stream. And then after the show, the next day, you can listen to the recording of this show. Again, you go to YouTube, type in the search box Bless Radio 1, Bless Radio with the number 1, and then space Grail message. That's Grail, message MESSAGE, and then the topic of the show, which tonight is, what is prayer without work? And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well. Gregory, I want to read something from the Bible now, with the listener earlier referred to actually. So this, what I'm going to read now, is from James chapter 2, verses 14 to 26. This is James chapter 2, verse 14 to 26, and the title is Faith and Actions. My brothers, what good is it for someone to say that he has faith if his actions do not prove it? Can that faith save him? Suppose there are brothers or sisters who need clothes and don't have enough to eat. What good is there in your saying to them, God bless you, keep warm and eat well, if you don't give them the necessities of life? So it is with faith. If it is alone and includes no actions, then it is dead. But someone will say, one person has faith, another has actions. My answer is, show me how anyone can have faith without actions. I will show you my faith with my actions. Do you believe that there's only one God? Good. The demons also believe and tremble with fear. You fool! Do you want to be shown that faith without actions is useless? How was our ancestor Abraham put right with God? It was through his actions, when he offered his son Isaac on the altar. Can't you see? His faith and his actions work together. His faith was made perfect through his actions. And the scripture came true that said, Abraham believed God, and because of his faith, God accepted him as righteous. And so Abraham was called God's friend. You see, then, that it is by his actions that a person is put right with God, and not by his faith alone. It is the same with the prostitute Rahab. She was put right with God through her actions, by welcoming the Israelite spies and helping them to escape by a different road. So then, as the body without the spirit is dead, so also faith without actions is dead. Listeners, I was reading this from the Bible, James chapter 2, verses 14 to 26, and it was titled Faith and Actions. Gregory, I know the word prayer wasn't used here, but the word work was used, or actions was used. So, and you have already said earlier about prayer being an activity. So, would you like to say something from what I've read there, Gregory?
So much has been read and contains so much that one may only paraphrase, or one is unable to follow line by line precisely what has been read. The key thing here is that one has to be very, very careful in interpreting what has been read. For many of these expressions, these ancient biblical expressions, are basically metaphors. Metaphors to represent certain scenarios or pictures, which pictures will teach a particular lesson. Unless they are seen that way, then the possibility is that these things are taken literally, that is, very superficially, and the import, that which is important for the human personality, is lost. As with everything, or as with anything, any comment, any explanation must be given within a framework. Which framework is that of the rules or the laws which has been placed in nature, upon which all activities come into being, manifest for some time, and then, in quotes, vanish. This must be the basis for all languages, all activities. At best, metaphors are used to elucidate very carefully. One can take the case of Abraham. And when looked at, the question one should ask oneself, was Abraham alone all this while? Did Abraham ever ask himself how he came into existence? Was he born from parents? How did he go from where he was to this particular state of belief, where he himself was prepared to sacrifice his son? And the Almighty is always called in, becoming a friend of the Almighty. These are only expressions to show that becoming a friend of the Almighty only means that person's activity is agreeable. How could his activities have been agreeable initially when a human being like himself, he was going to sacrifice? Again, the word sacrifice has not been viewed correctly. Sacrifice has nothing to do with killing others. Abraham should have realized that. Therefore, it must have meant something else, that he had alternatives. And he decided to follow a different route. What is stressed here is these expressions from ancient writings should not be read superficially and saying Abraham was going to sacrifice his son and he was told you don't need to do that, and now therefore an animal. Must an animal even be sacrificed? What does it profit the Almighty that one of his creatures has to be killed in order to please him? These are the questions each personality must ask themselves. Absolutely nothing. Whereas what is demanded of the human personality is to open up themselves to the streams such that in the arrows, in opening up, they are able to perceive correctly that path which they must tread. That is all. Having been shown that path within this framework of nature, within the framework of creation, it is now the prayer. That means, having been shown the path, they follow it. That precisely is what prayer is supposed to mean. A search for a path which is like a request. The path being shown to you, you will not ask for a path to be shown to you if you yourself are not on a journey, if you yourself are not on a quest. The human personality that have set out from its cradle as an unconscious human personality needed to develop itself. Therefore, is on a quest. Therefore, it has the right to ask questions. Therefore, it is proper to ask in reaction, in reciprocal activity. That path is shown intuitively on how to proceed. In proceeding along that path, being mapped out, the cycle of reciprocal activity is completed. That is prayer as it should be intuitively.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. I really must say you've covered a lot there, and how you have gone through the story that I read out in this chapter of the Bible. You can see how carefully one must look at these words and understand them in the right way. If you take them literally, without really reflecting, you'll say, oh, you'll just accept a lot of things which, let's say, are not literally like that. So, and then you'll come to a wrong understanding. So it's like you have to see what is behind the words rather than just the, like you said, Gregory, earlier, externals. You see the externals, but it's really what that is sort of, the external is just the outer activity, but there's something inner activity going on, which we need to be focusing on that. Probably that's what, and that's, you could say, also the spiritual activity and behind that, in that. And I know in our previous shows, many times you've talked about if something happens, there's always an intention behind an action. And two people can do the same action, but the intention of the two people could be different. And so what is behind it, what is their intention, is what's really the driving force here. So, so when we read these stories, we have to have that understanding as well. So thank you for that answer. I'm just, you know, we've talked about prayer being an activity, and we talked about, let's say, we look at the physical activity, but really what we really need to look at is the, you know, like I mentioned, inner activity, or the, yeah, what is, let's say, the intuitive activity. Maybe that is the way to put it in a prayer. And also, Greg, you told us about that it is a request, something. I mean, there's so many things, and I'm just trying to work out what we should really go, how we should move forward here. Okay. Gregory, in these spiritual teachings, we are given a form of prayer, you know, that's, and then people learn it, you know, and just, let's say, they go to worship and then they repeat it there. So that form of prayer, I don't want to use the word ritual there, but it's like prepared, let me call it prepared prayer. Is that, yeah, is that like, what is the meaning for that, behind that, Gregory, when we are given a prayer? Is that, because that's not the only type of prayer. So I want to understand, what is the purpose of that type of prayer, Gregory, when the spiritual teachings were given a prayer, and we will, in that one, you would be thanking the Lord, would be for the blessings and so on, and then asking for his help. So
strictly speaking,
yes,
when one examines the form in which the prayer stands, there is always preparation. In the initial instance, whoever intends to say that particular prayer must first empty himself or herself of all distractions. Distractions in thoughts, distractions externally, such that it can concentrate fully and allow its intuition to come to the fore. Else, it is of no consequence, because the inner personality is not involved. It does not touch one's intuition. So, an activity which has no impact on one's intuition has, on the long run, no spiritual consequence, for it must impact on the spirit. And when prayer are discussed, it is seeking to make spiritual connections. Therefore, when this prayer is to be said, many a thing must be put aside. Therefore, you will find that if one is reciting a prayer and one's intuition is not there, it amounts to nothing. If, however, one's intuition is fully there, then the manner in which the personality goes about it will be completely different, because the personality will be absorbed very deeply and will not pay attention or will not be aware of whatever the background is. It all depends on the personality, not on the prayer itself.
Again, Gregory, thank you for that answer. What we are doing here is this picture that we are painting, or Gregory, you're painting. It's I can say it's like alive, and it's, you know, it's not like there's a set formula. One must pray at this time, say exactly these words in this location or venue, you know. There's some, like you like you said, there has to be a preparation, and but this preparation is not knowing the words. It's your preparation of yourself as a person. So so it's like the prayer is really your prayer, you know. So thank you for bringing that out. I'm going to slightly change the next the discussion a bit, Gregory, in my next question. Now, Jesus said, watch and pray. What did he mean with those words, watch and pray?
Thanks. Whenever expressions or words of Jesus are brought into discussions, then they must be taken in all the seriousness they deserve. For he himself, in his activities, fulfilled unconditionally the laws of nature, the laws of creation, or some may say the divine laws, which are expressions of the divine will. And therefore, when he says watch, watch calls for alertness, alertness in spirit, that is alertness in one's intuition, also alertness here in the physical world. to be so much on the alert, such that one is able to determine that which is no good, that which is evil, through one's intuition, to ensure that that particular evil impression does not take root physically. So that watchfulness is vigilance, vigilance of spirit, vigilance of the intellect, vigilance in all that we do. And the second part is prayer, which prayer only means that in vigilance and making contact with the streams of power that has always been within the activities in creation, one is able to engage with those streams of power, to partake and make those streams of power do work. First of all, work in one's intuition to ensure that evil is kept at bay and only good in accordance with the will of the Almighty. That is what is meant by watch and pray. Good in terms of the will of the Almighty, which first will manifest in one's intuition, will manifest first non-earthly before subsequently manifesting physically. For that which is good, when it manifests physically, brings benefit to all that are involved.
Thank you for this answer again, Gregory. What we're doing is building the context of prayer. How we said what is prayer, and then the preparation behind or before the prayer, you could say. And it's like how you have to. We said prepare, but it's like your state of mind and everything must be. I just can't think of any other word right now at the moment, Gregory, except in holy. It's like you treat it as a holy, the prayer as a holy, something holy that you it really takes careful steps towards it. And you've talked about it. You're making a connection when you're sending a request. You're sending out something, and that's like making a connection. And you can see that process now. We can see the process that you've talked about now. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message. Discussing tonight is what is prayer without work? What is prayer without work? You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us is our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, before I take another question, Gregory, I just want to tell listeners we're broadcasting on Bless Radio, blessradio1.com, the number one, blessradio1, the number one.com. Also, we are broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one, space live stream. That's for the live show. After the show, you can listen to the recording the next day. Also on YouTube, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number one, space Grail message, and then space the topic of the show, which tonight is what is prayer without work. And you can also listen to any previous shows also on YouTube. Gregory, I've received a question from a listener. It's sort of so I'll just say exactly what is written here. I often hear Christians say, with God, everything is possible. Does this not mean that there is an arbitrary creator? People think of the Almighty as if he's is Father Christmas. Is this right? Is this the right way to approach God? So I'm just going to repeat that, Gregory. I often hear Christians say, with God, everything is possible. Does this not mean that there's an arbitrarily, let me say, acting creator? People think of the Almighty as if he's Father Christmas. Is this the right way to approach God?
Well, it's good that expressions like this abound, in which many have noticed, and therefore it has to be addressed. Very simply, one could as well ask, if their statement is to be taken that everything is possible, then it will be said that with the Lord Almighty, evil is possible. For we know evil is possible with man. Stealing is possible. We know stealing is possible with man. The same Lord that in the commandment said, "Thou shalt not kill." How can it then be that everything is possible, therefore killing, murder is possible? The problem has always been many are carried away considering all form of possibilities and impossibilities. Were that the case, then they would not have been born. For the Son of the Almighty, in obeying the will of his Father, was born on earth as a child, which only means that whoever needs to incarnate here on earth to experience or to lead many others must first be born as a child. Now, if it is said everything is possible. That means not being born as a child is possible. Then how can that be? As usual, many have not reflected deep enough to understand that in nature there are laws. Which laws cannot be circumvented? Or even if in a temporary basis they are circumvented, the reciprocal activity must seek redress. That has always been the case. And therefore, their exuberant statement does not stand.
Thank you for that, Gregory. And following from what you've said, again, there are many people, who are, in quotes, believers of whatever teaching it happens to be, think that through prayer, their sins can be forgiven. And so my question on that, Gregory, in fact, they even say on a specific, I was going to bring that up a little bit later, but as I follow on to this question, but even it is said, let's say on a specific occasion, let's say a particular festival, if you pray at that moment, in that time, all your sins can be forgiven. And it's it's like that prayer is worth 1,000 of some other normal, I'll use the word normal, other prayers which you would do another occasion. I'll use the word normal in quotes because I don't want to compare the prayers too much, but basically those sort of statements are said. And so Gregory, what I want to ask you, Gregory, we are saying prayer is a process, and so what I want to ask you, Gregory, on this is that through prayer, Gregory, can you have forgiveness? Let me ask that first. Can you have prayer through forgiveness? Can you have forgiveness through prayer? Let me ask with that first.
The discussions which you've been having, our framework has been those of the laws of nature or the laws of creation. Through these laws, everything came into existence and manifests accordingly. So, when prayer is discussed, one can see the process of the inner personality being astir, seeking for direction, and not only seeking for direction, but making engagement with the power streams so as to follow the direction that has been shown to it. That is for genuine prayer. Therefore, if a man, a personality, had taken a route that has led him or her in the wrong direction, in that process of genuine prayer and asking for strength, if granted, that particular personality is shown the route he or she must follow to come out of that particular difficulty. The routes vary. Therefore, in following the paths, one will now, in that process, make good of that which they had done bad in the past. That is the part of the forgiveness. For if one now has planted structures on the paths in the past, which has caused so much difficulty, and now genuinely one intends to do that which is right, and is shown the path, he then follows the path to undo that which they have done wrong in the past by sowing the right threads which will bring benefit to others. Then their prayers have been answered because they themselves have followed the path shown to them. If, however, they open their mouth, repeat certain phrases, when their inner being is not there, then it becomes a complete waste of time, which time itself would have been spent on other things. A complete waste of time, a complete waste of the opportunity, and a complete waste of the power which would have been their share if they themselves were genuine. Therefore, it is self-delusion to consider that they can just blab a few things and the hideous caricatures which they had silently cultivated over time will be swept away for them. For they themselves passed so much effort to erect these hideous caricatures of paths. As a blessing, it is they themselves that may be granted the power to remove that which is so much attached to them, to remove that which they keep supplying energy to every second. So, as they have imagined, thinking that they only need to blab a few things, that becomes self-delusion. Only when they have passed on from the earth, by which they have dropped their physical body, will they now have to engage with that which through their activities they had erected for themselves. For they would have created an environment in accordance with their thoughts, in accordance with their weak intuitions. It is that environment which they themselves must first live through, experience it to the full. Only then, in genuine cry for help, we help reach them.
Thank you again, Gregory, for your answer there. What is very, very clear is that we already said prayer is a process, and we started at one. We discussed about the preparation, but there's also a follow-on. You know, the process doesn't end when you say the prayer. Finished off saying the prayer. There is a further continuation. You know, because of obviously prayer, if it's a request, there's going to be an answer or a response. But that response is not, oh, I give the action of the prayer, and then the response is brought through somebody else or something else, but I have to make the effort through the whole process for me to get, you could say, my reward for for a genuine prayer. Otherwise, as you say, it's a waste of effort. The whole prayer is a waste of effort. But it requires work. We've said that, and the work is coming from us. It's not we just hand over to somebody, say the words, and then I don't want to use it this way, but just to give the picture, some magic happens after saying the words, and then you get what you asked for. No, you still have to do the work to get that reward, even if it's not coming directly through your action in the sense of you make it happen with your own hands, but you are participating. So thank you for that, Gregory. Just thinking, Gregory, there's some prayers which are done, again, I'm talking sort of, we could say, formal and informal. So some prayers are done jointly and others are done individually. Is there something special of, in the sense of having a joint worship? So, because that is again set out in spiritual teachings, like a set time or set festival, people come together to pray together. So is there something special about a joint prayer? And I'm sort of comparing with the as again, not against, but as against, and not really against, but as an alternative to the individual prayer.
Even in so-called joint prayer, the individual opening and requests is always there. However, what is paramount here is that in this joint session, there are individuals, or we now have, in accordance with the laws of creation, the attraction of homogeneity. That means their inner thoughts are tuned in the same direction. Being tuned in the same direction, it echoes. It makes resonance. For their inner thoughts, their intuition combine, since it's along the same directions, in humility, in purity, it's able to make contact with the power streams, and in response, so much is then granted. But one should never forget that what returns to the human personality may not manifest physically as they themselves think intellectually. Some of the manifestations may be immediate, some may spread over time. All this in accordance with the wisdom of the Almighty, who has placed certain things in creation such that the human personality always has help whenever the need arises.
Thank you for that, Gregory. The Lord's Prayer, which Jesus gave to mankind, is that what I want to say there. It has everything in it in a way, Gregory. So, you know, but I'm wondering, Gregory, yeah, sometimes, so that is like say given prayer. That's something that is given to us. And are we meant to, like we talked about preparation, and even if we have some requests, we have to like prepare ourselves even to have the results. So when we say the Lord's Prayer, and let's say it is said every Sunday in the church, there. So what sort of preparation is needed for the Lord's Prayer? Let me say it that way. Is there something special in that prayer to say that prayer?
Each personality that wishes to be engaged in prayer, albeit the Lord's Prayer, must first prepare itself. That means strive to open itself. That is the same thing as to open itself intuitively. The picture which Christ himself placed in front. And not all the parts will be said at once. For when one hears the first opening, Our Father, that's already pushes every non-intuitive thoughts away, because it says, Our Father who art in heaven. So one can see the gradual preparation for when someone needs to approach him who is of a different species, who is much higher than they can ever imagine. Then they are in quest. In quest, you mean before you start your quest, you must prepare. Prepare to shove aside all the distractions which many a person is engaged in and will divert its attention from the highness, from that which they wish to engage in. So preparation is paramount. Preparations in purity and simplicity. But sadly, many in approaching or in the process of wishing to use that prayer have all sorts of earthly things in their heads. Yet, this particular prayer is spiritual. Yet at the same time, they should know very clearly when Christ was asked, shall we pay taxes to Caesar? He made it very clear, unto Caesar, give to Caesar. Unto the Lord, give to the Lord. Now, one wishes to approach the Lord in the way they approach Caesar. One wishes to ask for spiritual guidance. Yet, they are thinking of only earthly things. One wishes to approach the Most High. Yet they want to dictate to the Most High the directions which they themselves wish to follow. Then you would ask, is that what prayer is all about? Why then do they need to bother when they already have a demand asking or demanding from the Almighty the path, or to grant them the strength to fulfill how they see it? They who are on the quest, who do not know the structures, the laws which have been placed in creation, they dare to ask the Lord Almighty to acquiesce to their demands. This already tells you that they are only doing things in a formality, in a ritual, which they themselves hold very dearly, and it doesn't get far.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. My next question, actually, just following exactly from what you're saying, you talked about ritual there. Some people, they fast in addition to the, let's say, they do the fasting and they do the prayer, and that fasting is supposed to, let's say, I'm going to use the word purify them, in readiness for the, well, it's part of the ritual. I want to say part of the ritual, and in an additional ritual, let me say, which is supposed to assist, if I can say, assist with prayer. So, and we've been talking about rituals a lot already. So, does fasting help with praying? That's my first question on that, Gregory.
Although it can be seen very clearly that in the process, when one intends to pray, to ask for directions in order to be able to receive these power streams in creation, one needs to be strong enough. One needs to ensure that the physical body that is being used is strong enough, pure enough, lest the radiations of the physical body, it's not strong enough for the spirit or for the soul to stand firm. That means one now has a weak body. A weak body is unable to support the personality when he or she is praying, because that activity of having a weak body, by not taking what is necessary for the body, is unhelpful. So why shackle yourself? Only that which the body needs for continuity, for strength and existence, that suffice. All others are extras. So it must be considered that when one keeps fasting, that means denying oneself of the nutrients that the physical body needs. Purposely denying is unhelpful. For why was the physical body granted to the human personality? Why do they now want to deprive it of those nutrients? Because they wish to appear pious before the Almighty, who has placed things in creation so that they themselves can see it. On the other hand, those gluttons who have eaten so much, it might be necessary for them to stay away such that the activities of the physical body does not oppose their concentration because they eat too much. But for many who have not eaten for days, when the body needs this food to go on fasting, wishing to appear to the Almighty in such a manner, is willful sinfulness. Such punishments are undesirable and are counterproductive. However, one may mention that in these our discussions, we are only able to mention a few things. It is the hope that many will strive to examine the work critically, the work in the light of truth, the Grail message.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I just wanted to say, when I asked the question about fasting, that I didn't put a time or anything specific there, and the purpose of that fasting would only be for the prayer, not for other purposes. So just to yes, so in case there was any misunderstanding about that question, so it's the things are connected. So it's not like you're fasting, it is a specific purpose only, which is to do with the prayer alone. And so I wouldn't expect someone to fast for 1 month non-stop, of course not. It would be just for that period. One day can be, or something like this, just for that point to I mean, there's a without going into too much details, but obviously there's some teaching where they do fast. I mean, there are many teachings where people fast, and some for a long period, some for a short period, but the aim is still the same, which is to purify them before they purify them, you could say, their minds away from earthly things. Let me say that's basically, I think, what it is behind the fasting. Not the idea is not to starve yourself to so you don't have energy to exist. That would be obviously not the purpose. And it's always said, don't do anything that you cannot handle. You don't do that.
Purification has nothing to do with deprivation. So to deprive yourself of something does not mean it will necessarily lead you to purification of thoughts. What many should do to deprive themselves of the horrible thoughts that assail them many a time, of the things which they like to connect with. The problem is always the same. It is a process that there is the preparation such that when the time comes, you will be focused. You cannot, over time, be engaged in some activities, and then a few days, a few seconds to go, you drop those activities, and then you become focused. For your mind is still attached to those activities. A very simple example. There are many who are engaged in the so-called social media, where they are so tied to social media, where they go to Facebook and all sorts of discussions beautiful, ugly, and they wish to have a prayer. They want to be heard. When it's about 5 minutes to that time, they drop. But they've forgotten that the effects of those things which they have been accumulating is still very strongly felt. It therefore interferes with what they wish to do. And therefore, you find that on the long run, these things are done superficially. It doesn't come from deep within, or the intensity that would have been there had they dropped some of this distraction stuff. That intensity would have purified their thoughts, that only those things that will help to engage in lighter and purer thoughts will be of benefit. So, to deprive yourself of something, one has to weigh very carefully. It is not done at the last minute. There is a process of gradual preparation.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Listeners, I just want to remind you, you're listening to Blessed Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And if you're interested in getting a copy of the Grail message or want to get more information on the Grail message, you can go to the website www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is, what is prayer without work? What is prayer without work? You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 7939 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1, Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, we are broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's one word. So, well, it's two words. It's Bless Radio 1 is one word, and then live stream is the second word. And you can listen to a recording of our show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space Grail message, and then space the topic of the show, which tonight is, what is prayer without work? And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well on YouTube. Gregory, there's a commandment, or third commandment. It says, thou shalt keep the Sabbath day holy. And let's say how that is understood by many people who follow is that you go to church or whatever the, let's say, worship place it is, every once a week. Now I'm thinking it can be different for different people, but basically that's what it says. That's what is understood, let's say. So And obviously in that worship, there's the prayer is said. So what I want to ask you, Gregory, is that what is meant by this commandment, thou shalt keep the Sabbath day holy? It means to basically practice prayer regularly. Is that what it means?
It is said thou, which means you. Specifically, if it is thou, it is referring to the inner personality. The inner personality, through its intuition, should engage in the connection, the light streams which one had always talked about, which light streams have been placed in creation for the human personality to use, to gain power or to gain strength or to gain energy and then find its way. Now, it is quite easy to review one's path as one goes along if one does it on a weekly basis. It is much difficult to do it on a monthly or two or bi-monthly or 3 months. However, that activity must be done by the person. That means through your inner activities, through your inner steering, you make connection. To make connection to that which leads to on high, to the real holiness. So it is on the person. Having to leave the place you live and go to a gathering without focusing on the essence of that commandment, that turns out not to be helpful. Now, if you watch carefully, these commandments are granted to the human spirit in order to engage in constant activities in reciprocity, always opening themselves in their intuition to receive the power and the directions they need to follow. These commandments were given through Moses. And in it, some of it says, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's good. Thou, it kept repeating. These commandments were given before they finally set out for the promised land. Knowing fully well the tendency of a seeker or the tendency for someone in quest, their questions were answered. The question one should now ask oneself, what then happened when they got to the promised land? Moses wasn't there. All those laws were violated. What did many see? Pilfering from their neighbor, taking their neighbor's wife, killing, decimating. Yet, these laws were already given to the people. They who are supposed to mature through this gentle guidance. Therefore, one should be on the alert. The law or the guidance, which guidance many seek, ask questions when they pray. However, they are unable to realize that that which they seek has already been granted them, but they still don't understand how to make use of it to bring them spiritual benefit when they themselves are seeking for material benefit. And that has always been the problem. It may seem like a digression, but they all belong to the same thing. That it is you yourself who must keep the Sabbath day holy. It is you yourself that need to fulfill all these things. That is what many need to ask for, which are already been granted. But because many are not strong enough within themselves, by strong or by strength, one is not referring to physical power, but the resolve to pursue that which is simple, the resolve to pursue that which is pure.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. You know, as you said, the Sabbath day is normally thought to be this every 7 days, and people take it as a rest day from work, from the regular physical work, let's say, or I was going to say mental work. When I say mental work, I mean some jobs require more of that than the physical work. So, and then this Sabbath day is meant to be the day off the regular work. And they call it rest day. And then how you have said it, Gregory, as you say, most people would say, oh, that day you spend in going to, let's say, worship. And but what you've pointed to here, Gregory, is you said, thou shalt keep the Sabbath day holy. You, that is you, will keep it holy. And how you would do that is reflecting on what you've done this last 7 days. It's like and I'm thinking, do people really think this way or realize that is what it is? Because as I say, most of us would have thought, oh, that is the day when we go for the worship. And yes, and it's, you know, we talk worship or prayer being an activity, but this activity, what we've been discovering in our show today is, it's not like I say some words and then I get a result with, let's say, I make a request and then I get a result. It's actually you are participating in that activity to get that result. So it's quite, let's say, very different to what people probably think. So thank you for bringing that out. That really, as the title is tonight, what is prayer without work? So really, the prayer is actually a work. And you need to know what the work actually is. So, and hopefully, listeners, you've been here discovering or realizing that as we go, as we've been having our discussion tonight. Gregory, I've got another question from a listener. Let me just find it. It says, is meditation good for the body? And then it adds, is this a kind of praying, clarifying oneself spiritually? So I'll just repeat that. Is meditation good for the body? Is this a kind of praying, clarifying oneself spiritually?
Here, one must ask, what is that expression, meditation, supposed to achieve? Is meditation the same thing as reflection? Meditation is more or less an intellectual activity of viewing, or it's an intellectual view of processes in nature, whereas reflection is more of an intuitive view of processes in nature. That which is intuitive is more inclusive, is more refreshing, and is the right way. That which is intellectual only looks at parts of the whole, is only one-sided, albeit it looks at the intellectual manifestation without shattering the barrier which leads to the spirit. Therefore, meditation as is practiced now, in which the intellect is the sole tool for observation, that tool which is tied to the five senses, that tool which is tied to what only happens here on earth, that tool which is unable to rise above one's intellect, is restricted, cramped, and may benefit the intellect, but is of no benefit to the spirit.
Thank you for that, Gregory. We've come to end of our show tonight, so I don't want to take any more, ask any more questions. So I'd like to end as we usually do, with the reading from the Grail message, which is the beginning of the foreword of the Grail message. But this time I'm going to begin with this one little bit section just before the foreword as well. I'm going to include that as well. So, dear listeners, I'm going to read right at the beginning of the Grail message, as I say. It's just to tell you the full title of the Grail message is In the Light of Truth. The Grail message by Abdushin. And it begins this way. Free yourself from all darkness. He who makes no effort to grasp the word of the Lord aright burdens himself with guilt. And then I'm going to move to the next page, which is For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abdrushin. So listeners, that was reading from the beginning of the Grail message, In the Light of Truth, the Grail message by Abdrushin. And if you would like to get a copy or would like to know more about the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. That's www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hope you enjoyed the topic, which was what is prayer without work? Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wish everyone a beautiful week.
Thank you. And thank you again, listeners, for joining us tonight. Hope you found the show enlightening and uplifting. We'll be back again next Tuesday, as usual, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with another topic. Hope you can join us then. I wish you all a great week. God bless. Take care, everybody. All the best. Have a great week.